Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up. You're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Expanders Club podcast. I am your host, an oracle, your spiritual bestie, hopefully a bit of a guide on this journey called life. Keeping it interesting, bringing you some fun and useful information, and certainly some cool, expansive ideas, situations, and people. First off, I want to say congrats. We made it. It is December 18th as I'm sitting here, and, we're at the end of the year. We did it. 2025 is coming to a close, and what a year it was. I don't know if any of you have this practice, but I like to put a word to a year at the beginning of the year. Kind of helps me just think about and understand the energy of the year, and puts a lot of other stuff into context. And I knew going into 2025, my word was change. I knew I was in for a lot of change for the year. And some of the things I knew, right? Like we already knew that we were going to move across the country. That's obviously a lot of change. I mean, that's the only thing we knew for certain, I guess. I had a feeling that we were going to get pregnant. That happened. For those of you who don't know, I'll give you a little flash. For those of you on YouTube, I got the belly out today. I am almost 25 weeks pregnant with a little boy, our second and last child. We moved across the country, which literally changed every single thing in our lives. How we go about our day, where we live, like where the schools my daughter goes to, the people we interact with on a daily basis, where we buy our groceries, every little thing really changed, which has been quite beautiful. We bought a new house. We're surrounded by nature. We're learning a new lay of the land. Our best friend and dog of almost 18 years passed away. Certainly a part of the change that we didn't want, but it was the right timing for that. I got pregnant. We have a little boy on the way, so we're very much preparing for that change that's coming. So, and a million other things that I am not going to list, but change was definitely the word of the year. And I love reflecting on how, okay, yes, I knew that was the word of the year, and I knew that was what was coming. But I didn't know all the little details of what change was going to look like, what it was going to mean, how it would shape our lives, how it would change things and what they would look like today. And that's the beauty of the co-creation with the universe, right? There's things that we say yes to. We have free will. There's things that we say yes to, and we become the catalyst for them. And then there's this part that the universe brings to us also and helps us co-create. So I haven't done my end of year work yet. I don't really abide by the January 1st being the end of year. It's never felt right for me, and it's just a date on the calendar, right? I always feel it out, and it's different. It's every year it's a different time that feels like the closing day or the closing week for me, but it's usually more like mid-January, late January, sometimes February signifies the beginning of a year for me. Sometimes it aligns with the Aries season and the astrological year. So it's more of an energy and a feeling for me than this specific date means I need to be ready to be in my new chapter. However, I did want to chat with you guys real quick about this chapter. And I have a much more detailed Substack that will be out and available about this time at this moment in time. And I've labeled it the quantum gap. So we are in a collective quantum gap. Some of you have experienced this energy before very consciously. Some of you not consciously. And no matter what, collectively, we've entered a quantum gap. And so what is a quantum gap? It is the space in between where you've been and where you're going, right? And I think that even just that description, a lot of us can relate this time of year to that and be like, yeah, that checks. There feels like I've always labeled it before as like it's this weird in-between time, right? Where it's kind of confusing. We don't always know what to do with ourselves. There's a lot of shoulds, woulds, coulds. There's some like releasing of old stuff, preparing for the new. But I have a name for it and I have some thoughts around it. So we're calling it the quantum gap, which is actually a scientific term. And I'm just putting it through the spiritual lens for you guys. So welcome to your quantum gap, a space in between where you've been and where you're going. And like I said, I have a full detailed Substack coming out on this, but I just want you guys to be aware of this energy and be aware of how important it is to give yourself the time and space in this energy to do that final alchemization, the final transformation, to get in the energy that helps you land in your next highest timeline, that quantum leap. That piece is like always very visible to us and very visible to the outside world is when we hit that point of the quantum leap. We are no longer where we've been, we're in a new timeline, but it's the in-between work, this quantum gap, that are the pieces that are so important. And you've done the work to basically raise your vibration, to enter you into the quantum field, into this quantum gap, into this realm where anything is possible. And now all you have to do is let the alchemy, let the transformation happen by choosing. For the next few weeks, choosing your highest timeline in every moment, pausing, allowing for pause, for clarity, for contemplation, for time to just be and be in the energetic field. One of the biggest things that I'm seeing being asked of people right now is like, put away the to-do list, put away the shoulds, like the, I have to scramble for the end of the year and finish these things up, or I need to do all these things to prepare for the new year. Like, none of that is going to matter. And it's just taking up your time and driving you crazy. It's not going to matter if you do it today or if you do it on January 6th, right? So give yourself the time and space to have no to-do list, to contemplate, to get clear on the vision of what your higher self is, feels like, does, acts, how she responds. Give yourself the space to alchemize. Give yourself the space to be in joy and to really enjoy the season, whether it is spending time alone or it's spending time with family or being more present in whatever you're doing. Give yourself the opportunity to feel what alignment feels like and just be in the magic of this energy. I have much more details and a much more thorough breakdown and some steps and some things to do or to not do, what I'm doing during my quantum gap, broken down in my Substack. So I hope that you will take an opportunity to check that out. You can find that through my personal Instagram, _Brooke_Harris. I will also link the Substack here in the show notes for you to check out, but a very potent, very exciting time where anything is possible and you have the opportunity to choose where you land next. Is it going to be in the same place? Is it going to be one level higher? Is it going to be 10 levels higher? Is it going to be a true quantum leap? This is where it gets fun. This is where it gets fun and you have the ability to choose. So I'll see you on the other side, my friends. I'm excited. I am taking time off. I have burnt up my to-do list essentially, or I've dismissed them out of my head and decided they don't matter. I'm going to take a 2-week break from social media. I have a little list that I also share in the Substack of like what it means for me to show up in this quantum leap, and probably will be even more as I really lean into it. But I'm excited. I feel big things coming. I feel big things coming for all of us. This episode feels like the perfect way to end the year. We have Morgan Blackman, who is a holistic wealth coach, and We're talking about building wealth that is in alignment with your values. She is an incredible resource and guide and makes this conversation feel it's very encouraging and very feels very accessible. I came away from my conversation with Morgan feeling like this is really easy, where I think money things can feel complicated. It can feel like you're giving stuff up. Her tips, her wisdom makes it feel very accessible, very kind of fun and exciting. And you can kind of see a path for yourself of how, like, okay, I can get control of this, or I can manage this in a different way that feels good, that feels exciting, that feels aligned. Money is energy and it is a very spiritual thing. And so I love how Morgan applies the logical and the spiritual world to her work, because, as you know, we're constantly operating in both. Um, and I think it's very important. We cannot look at money just in the physical world. Like we dive into our stories around money and how those affect our ability to have abundance and manage money, conditioning, thoughts and beliefs, how to remove those so that they don't impact our money. We talk about individual building wealth individually, collectively building wealth, how to align your spiritual and personal values with how you spend money, how you invest, to make an even bigger ripple effect or a snowball effect. It's a lot of fun. I'm excited for you guys to get into it. I think it's the perfect way to end the year. A great mix of logical and spiritual, really good inspiration to think about how we can level up things in the new year, how we step into a different energy in general, but a different energy with our money and abundance because it is such a big part of our lives. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you will check out Morgan on social media and her Substack. I will link access to her in the show notes. She is an incredible resource, a wealth of knowledge, and breaks things down again in a way that feels so attainable, so accessible, and so easy to process and work through. All right, friends. Happy holidays, happy new year, happy quantum gap. I am so grateful for you all. I'm grateful for the time you've spent with me this year. I am grateful for the words of encouragement. I'm grateful for the help in finding amazing guests. Um, I'm grateful for your friendship. I know a lot of this, sometimes feels like a one-way street where I'm just speaking and you're listening, but I can feel your energy. It has helped guide me, encourage me, make me feel supported in so many ways. So I just want to send love to all of you. I feel like you are all my best friends, and I appreciate you so much. Enjoy this time, enjoy this space, enjoy the quantum gap. I'll see you all on the other side. Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Expanders Club. So excited to have you here and really excited for today's guest and our topic today. Morgan Blackman, welcome to Expanders Club.
Oh, thanks for having me, Brooke. So excited to be here.
Yes, and tell me if I'm getting this right. You are a holistic wealth coach, is that correct?
Yes, holistic wealth coach. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to talk, you guys, we're going to talk all things money, finances, abundance. I am something I'm very, very ready for and been very conscious about and approaching from a different direction in my life lately. So I'm excited to learn from you.
Right.
But first, can you tell us what that kind of means? Like, what is a holistic wealth coach?
Yeah, well, I see it as sort of bridging the gap between finance and wellness. So, um, a lot of what I was seeing before becoming a holistic wealth coach was, very focused on the practical aspects of building wealth and managing your finances. And there wasn't so much a conversation around mindset and the bigger holistic picture and how, your emotional, mental, spiritual health can also both positively and negatively impact your money. Also, I like to say that wealth, I think when people hear the word wealth, they think it is strictly just money, but
Yeah.
for me, wealth is just the abundance of, right? So being rich in, the quality of friendships or your health, and that wealth isn't just what's in your bank account. So That's to me what a holistic wealth coach is.
Yes, I love that definition. And in my world, we talk a lot about the energy of money, right? And I think there's a lot to there's a lot of truth there that money has an energy to it. But money, finance, a lot of things we consider that we want for abundance, right? They also have this very physical presence. And so I'm excited to talk about how we bring the two together, right? Like it
Together.
is,
Yeah.
and everything's energy, right? But also this is very real in the 3D world.
3D reality that we live in. Yeah, we have to be realistic too, and the systems in which we exist in, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, where do you start with someone? Because I know you work directly one on one, you have group sessions, but someone comes to
Mhm.
you, what's usually their mindset when they're coming to you?
Oh, there's a few. Yeah, I feel like a lot of my coaching, my offerings sort of walk people through certain journeys depending at where they're at. So sometimes I'll have women come to me that are, really struggling with like their money mindset. Aren't really good at navigating their finances. Either they're someone who's very preoccupied, so they're just very anxious when it comes to money, maybe impulsively spending. And then you have another side of the spectrum that's maybe more avoidant. They freeze, they shut down, they don't want to look at a budget. They've maybe never set up a budget in their whole life, and have never been comfortable looking at money. And so for people in that kind of arena or that stage, we definitely focus a lot more on money mindset, getting you to a place where your body feels safe when having to deal with looking at numbers, and how that applies to the life that you want to live.
Gosh, there was such a energetics to the things you just said, and it kind of like made me feel really sad, right? Like where are we getting these habits, these stories, this like almost like this fear
Right?
of money, this not feeling safe? Like where is that coming from?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many places. I feel like, I mean, one, most people weren't really taught anything about money. And I think a lot of people think that money is inherently supposed to be just this personality trait that you've just been gifted. And some people are
Hmm.
just naturally good with money and some aren't. But I truly feel like it's a skill. A
Hmm.
lot of the times people just feel overwhelmed. A lot of that fear comes from just not understanding what it is, not being
Yes.
taught what it is. And so, obviously anything that you're not sure of or you fully comprehend is going to feel scary, right? It's like stepping into the unknown. And so I think that's one aspect of it. And another reason why people, yeah, might just be fearful is just like, it is, I mean, to have money can be is an essential thing to have
Right.
in your life, because if you don't, then like how are you going to feed yourself, how are you going to clothe yourself, like, it is an aspect of being able to fund your essential basic needs, and to thrive and to survive. So if you're not aware of or comfortable with or not familiar with the process of finding ways to earn an income and to maintain it in a healthy way and manner, then yeah, that can feel very overwhelming and something that, some people might shut down around or just really, yeah, just gain this like anxiety over something that really they just fully just don't comprehend, or just don't have the bandwidth to do so.
Yeah, and I think we like to give millennials and those within that, surrounding area like some credit. I do think we've come a long way. Like I think about the conversations I heard and saw and the relationship that I saw with my parents growing up with
Mm.
money and like and some of my friends too, like most of the fights that I heard were over money. Like I had this very weird situation that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, where my dad, my biological dad, gave me up for adoption to my stepdad, and my mom at a young age, like pretty much
Right.
to not pay child support. And my dad's very, very wealthy. My dad's very wealthy. So that was always also this story within the household that like being that wealthy is bad and selfish and
That's right.
um and
Yeah.
so I think about my friends too, and just like these crazy ass stories that we grew up with, and seeing how our parents related and that generation related to money. And it wasn't healthy. It was a lot of these things that, like, they're the source of a lot of these things that you're talking about, like avoidant, not really knowing how to handle it, like, you know, having a good relationship with it. So I
Conflict.
do think, you know, unfortunately for a lot of us, though, a lot of those stories were ingrained in us. But I do give, like I said, I give our generation credit because I think a lot of us are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're not doing that anymore, right? Like,
Not
I
repeating it. Yeah.
want to feel safe, and unfortunately for a lot of us to feel safe, finances play a big role in that. Just like you
A huge
said, we
role.
have to be
Yeah.
able to support ourselves. Like, we have to be able to put a roof over our heads, and you know, it just, as I'm talking to, it's like so interesting too, because we've also grown up in the girl boss era, and like, what a freaking weird ass bubble of stories we have around us about finances and money. Like,
For
it's
sure.
like, no wonder we're confused, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different stories. I love that you touched on that because actually my childhood story was very similar. In terms of feeling comfortable, I think there was like an illusion of being comfortable. Like anything that I wanted, I feel like, like there were always Christmas presents under the
Yeah,
tree, Christmas Day, and like we take the odd vacation. I was a little bit of like a daddy's girl and, spoiled in that regards. But whenever there were conflict and fights, which were very often and frequent, it was always about money. Always
yeah,
about money. And I think as I got older, I started to understand why. And a lot of that was just, a lot of mismanagement around debt and managing credit cards. And so the
yeah.
lifestyle that I thought was, um, I guess, genuine in the sense that it was because my parents were well off. It was more so because they were living off of credit cards to fund it. So that's
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
it kind of clicked for me. Yeah.
I mean, what a crazy era that was too. Like, credit cards, yeah, like everyone had credit cards. We, as an adult now, well, let me tell you my first credit card story. So I had, at like 18, my real dad is back in my life. He's the one who knows about money, right? He actually is a wealth, like, hedge fund wealth manager.
Hedge fund, wow.
So he knows about money too, in a certain realm, right? He doesn't necessarily know about the generosity or the energy of money. Yeah, that's a
Right.
topic for a whole different day. But he's trying to teach me about credit and to get a credit card, right? So I get my first credit card at 18. And I
Right.
think it was like $1,000 on it. I ran up that $1,000 so freaking
So quick.
fast,
Yeah.
and realizing how long it was going to take to pay it back, like,
Mm.
scared the shit out of me. Like, that experience with that was the last credit card that I had
Oh,
until
wow.
until I got married, and my husband and I have a credit card that we share, that we just, like, mainly use for points. You know, we put our expenses on it and then pay it off when it's due. And my husband has a very healthy relationship with money, not because he was taught that, but because he formed it himself.
Exactly.
But, like, what the fuck? Like, how, as I'm processing this, I'm like, how did we even stand a chance? But yeah, I became terrified of credit cards again, because what I saw,
Right.
hey, you have to pay that shit back, like, or it adds up really quickly. It's scary. So how does someone, let's say, I guess let's start from the beginning. How do we set ourselves up for success? Let's say, I don't want to say we're starting with a blank slate, but we're not in major debt. We're not, we've, like, kind of fumbled our way through life in an okay way, but we're at a stage now where it's like, okay, I'm making enough money that I should have more savings, or I
Right.
should be
Right.
investing. Like, I'm ready to be an adult with my money.
Exactly.
Where do we
Yeah.
start?
No, it's a great question. Well, first things first, I would say definitely get clear on your why and your values.
Mm,
Um, and the reason why I say that is because a lot of the times people feel like, okay, when I get to X number, then I'll be happy, then I'll be able to live this like lavish life. And I mean, a part of the work that I do is trying to get you to feel that way now and to see the wealth that you already have, with the resources available to you. But another reason why I say that is because a lot of people are chasing someone else's blueprint or chasing someone
mm,
else's goals and visions that they might have for themselves or that society sort of puts pressure on you to achieve when that might not necessarily be what you actually want to accomplish for yourself. Someone can live a very comfortable lifestyle off of $50,000, whereas for someone else it might take them 100,000 or $500,000 a year or a million. Um, but I think what's most important is getting clear on what your goals are, why they're important to you, and really ensuring that it's in alignment with who you are, and it's not coming from this um ego sort of maniacal
Yes. Yes.
place, where it's like I'm doing it be to gain the approval of others or to gain a certain status, because I feel like that's what a lot of um yeah, people like their money goals are sort of geared towards. It's geared towards the appeasement of others or people liking them. If I have like the big mansion and I'm able to take, all these five-star luxurious trips, like, people are then gonna take me serious, or my highlight reel is just gonna look banging.
I
you
mean, the
know,
time is
um,
social media, right? Like it's
exactly,
doing it
especially
for
with
the
social
gram.
media. Yeah, exactly. So are you doing it for the gram, or are you doing it truly for yourself? And that's going to be very important, because then I feel like it's easier for you to spend more in alignment. You'll be able to check in with yourself. You'll have that self-awareness that no, this is in alignment with my values. This is going towards, my either it's convenience or towards family or spirituality. And therefore it's easy to justify your spending. Yeah.
And
So that would be the first kind of
I
step.
love that, and that feels so true and correct, and feels like kind of the path that I have taken as well. But let's back up a step, because like that what you just shared is perfect, but like how the hell do we even get there to where we know?
Right.
And I think this is probably the work you actually do with a lot of clients, right? Is like how do we get to that place where we I forget what like where you described wealth is much more than fine than just dollars in the bank account, right? And where
Was,
we
yeah.
actually know what we want that fulfills us in a way
Yeah.
that's more than keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah. I would definitely say, I mean, there's a few activities or exercises I would do. So one of them is like, what are your interests? What are your hobbies? What are the things that like really bring you joy? And if you're able to like list that out, I feel like over time you'd be able to like categorize them. So maybe it's like, oh, spending time with loved ones, or buying people, thoughtful gifts, or going on walks, or or like going to the gym. Like for me, I would say a few things are like I love investing in myself. So I will spend all the money on like books, personal development, saunas, going to the spa, when I can treat
Yes.
myself.
Now you're
Um,
talking. That's my
yeah,
language, girl.
travel. Yep.
Yeah.
Travel's a big one. I love to explore, immerse myself in different cultures, meet new people. So that is, yeah, just me kind of getting an overall picture as to like who I am, what do I like, what brings me joy. And then I think it becomes a bit easier there to then categorize and figure out like what are your values. So for me,
Yes.
like I would say my top three values are like spirituality, stability, and finances, right? Those three. So yeah, I don't know like what yours would be, if you've ever been able to kind of play around with that, identifying your
Well,
values.
we have. I mean, it's an interesting thing when you go from. I mean, my husband and I have been together for 16 years, but we've been married 6 of those years. But for 10 years before we got married, we didn't keep our finances together, even though we were living together for a long time. And so it's this interesting thing going from a single not single, but like running my own finances, not even having to think about it, to like, oh, now I have a responsibility to someone else. Now we have a kid. Now we have an
Mhm.
even bigger responsibility. So we've been through many stages with it. And I will admit to you that when it was just me running my finances, I didn't keep an eye on it. And now I didn't have a credit card, right? So it wasn't like I was like spending more than I was making by any means, but I
Exactly.
was spending what I was making.
Right.
Like,
Most of
um,
it.
and like on what? I don't know. Rent, and living in LA at the
Or
time, rent was very expensive, of course, but like going out to eat and so as we've evolved, and even when we put our finances together, like I still kind of refuse to look at it because I was like, there's no problem. Like we're not overspending, right?
right.
and it's just annoying, and I run a business and I have to deal with those finances. And like when you're running a business where you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month versus, the thousands of dollars in your personal life, like they don't match up. So like you're already living in this like weird reality. And it wasn't until this past year that I decided, my husband kept asking, he'd like put together spreadsheets and charts, and I was like, God, please don't make me sit through. And we'd have personal finance meetings on the calendar and skip them, like
Yeah.
it was a struggle. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
I'm the one spending most of the money in the house because I'm buying the
Right.
house, all the stuff to keep the household running, right? And he kept like begging me to get involved, and finally something just like clicked in me, and I just like had that moment, and to be honest, it was probably, now that I'm talking through it, it was probably all the work I've done the past few years on myself to get to the place of wholeness and understand all the things you said, who I am, what do I want out of life, what do I want our future to look like, to slow down to even think about the future, right? Like to think about planning for my kid. And so it was like all of that came together. And I decided to take over the finances and manage them. And so we really did think about, and from a different perspective, like when I'm just sitting there listing things, right? Like it's like I like my lifestyle. Like it's all kind of important to me, right? It all
Right.
feel I want to try. I don't want to be denied anything, and I don't like buy shoes or purses or anything like that. I don't have any of those things. But I like to, if someone invites me somewhere, like I want to go. I want to travel. I want to see our family. Like, um, and what really helped me was like actually laying categorizing and laying out the finances. And like there's so
Exactly.
many programs these days that do it for you, or like our, like I said, we spend
Yeah.
pretty
Hmm.
much everything on our credit card for the month. So like that categorize, it takes me about an hour to do our finances. It's not a big deal.
Right.
And seeing those categories is what started to shift things for me. I was
Right.
like, oh, actually, I'd rather have a bigger travel budget than a eating out budget, right? Like, especially because
Exactly.
most of our meals that we're like eating out, like we're door dashing shit. Like, I don't need to door dash soggy food to my house that many
Right.
times a week. I'd
Exactly.
rather put in the effort, cook, and save money and put it in the travel budget. Or we just bought a new house and we want things for the house. Like, how do we budget for those things and where does it come out of? Not, and never, it hasn't been in a way. I had this fear that it would feel like things are being taken
Restrictive.
away from me. Yes,
Yeah.
very restrictive. And it's very empowering to be like, I get to
It is.
decide where I'm
Hmm.
spending this money, and that feels best for me and my family. It's very
Yeah.
different than I thought it was going to be all those years that I had the resistance to it.
I'm so happy you kind of came full circle and is able to or are able to, yeah, be in the situation now where you feel like, yeah, you have a lot more power over the options and what you choose to prioritize. It really does come down to that. Prioritization doesn't have to feel restrictive. It's not saying you can't get your $9 lattes anymore in the morning. It's just what's becoming more important to you. And that shifts over time, right? Like your
Yes.
values do change too, your goals shift and change as well. So that's really important. And I love that you spoke on maybe using an app or some budgeting software. Like I think the traditional way of looking at your money has always been like these spreadsheets. And for some people that works really well. Some people really like looking at the fine-tuned details. But for me, I'm very like laissez-faire. Like I really like if I can save an hour, 2 hours, of budgeting and have someone do it for me, I will pay
Yes.
for that. Like that
Yeah.
is something I'm willing to look at as a strategy. Sometimes I even just depending on like how consistent I know my expenses are and what's coming in, I can easily even now just sort of budget like in my notes app. Just kind of like, okay, here
Yeah.
are some of
Yeah.
the expenses I know that are coming my way. It's not really changing that much month to month. But I think the most important factor or habit you can build is getting comfortable looking at your money. Like
Yes.
just looking
Yes.
at it. You don't
Yes.
have to
Because
do anything, but just
kind of what you said, like once you have an awareness and you're looking at it, you kind of just know every month. Like it's not a surprise, right? Of like what you're not
exactly.
opening up your account and being like, oh shit. Like you kind of know where you're at without really having to put put in the work. And that's been something that's been like a really pleasant surprise to me. It's like, I mean, I
Yeah.
always kind of knew because I wasn't overspending, right? Because I didn't have a credit card, but like it, like I said, I can now do our close out our monthly finances in 45 minutes to an
Right.
hour, like, and it's actually kind of enjoyable. And then I'm budgeting for the next month, and like, when are we going to get the fence built, and like these little things that are fun things.
To work
And it
towards.
is
Yeah.
all, it does feel like it all comes down to like, what's your relationship to money, and and abundance and wealth, and what do you want it to be?
What do you want? But also, I think what you spoke on earlier is that you said something eventually clicked. And that's what I wanted to speak a bit more into because sometimes, like, I used to be the same way. I was like, really, like, what's the point of saving? I know you're supposed to save, but like, I didn't really understand the why, and I think it's like when you're put in certain situations, or you have something that really motivates you, then that's where like that click happens and you realize like, oh yeah, like I actually do want to prioritize putting money into this area or building wealth. And so for me, that was actually investing. In my
Mhm.
journey, it was very backwards because usually kind of like what we're talking about now, that step by step, like where do you start? And it's normally like, okay, getting clear on your why, setting a goal, looking at the numbers, budgeting, then seeing if you do have, any net income, where does that extra income go? Some of that can go into a little bit of like a fun sort of sinking fund. They call them sinking funds, but yeah, just like an area of your savings where maybe you can splurge a little bit more on yourself. Maybe it's for travel or a wedding or a home. And I mean, for me, I think what was most important is just really um getting to a place where I wanted to invest and really have my money work for me. And
Mm,
so when I started my financial journey, it started with investing. I was like, okay, like I just want to
okay.
put money into the stock market and see how much comes back from that. And the first year I started investing, I think I had put in like $5,000. And by the end of that year, I had doubled that to like 10,000.
Amazing.
And it wasn't always consistent like that, but at least over like the 3, 4 years after that, even till now, like I see an average 10 to 20%. It varies. And the average annual investor will see like between 7 to 10%. So that was, yeah, really wild for me. My first year of doing something new and a little bit scary. And that became the click for me because once I saw that, oh wow, investing is actually working for me and my money's able to work for itself, I want more of this. Like, how can
Yes.
I get
Yes.
more money into the stock market? And that's when I was like, that became my motivator. Like, okay, I want to get the rest of my money shit together. Like, I want to start saving more, building like even like a little emergency fund because you don't want to put all your money into like the stock market either,
Mhm.
right? So it was like building a little cushion just in case maybe I did lose my job or like I couldn't work in my business for a year. I have something to fall back on. And then also I had a bunch of debt because I had graduated, university. I had bought a brand new car once I had got my first job. And so I had all this lingering debt and I was like, I want to get rid of that as much as
Mhm.
possible. A little bit of
Mhm.
credit card debt too, because that's very high interest. So like all these things started to become these motivators and that became my why and what really made me want to build wealth the
Really
stock
love
market.
that point of like, start like, okay, here's a general process, and here's kind of a list of things you can do, but start with, and tell me if I'm hearing this correctly, like start with whichever part excites you the most, right? Because it's all going to
Too.
it'll trickle into all the other parts. And so you weren't saving for a trip, or you were, I investing sounds exciting to me. Let me try it. Damn,
Exciting,
I'm
yeah.
seeing this return. So this motivates how I think about all of my other finances.
Yeah,
I love that.
exactly.
And I think that is so important. And I think that was what was important for me. My husband had read all these books and was like trying to be like, here's the process. Like, let's get organized. And it wasn't until whatever it was clicked for me. I think for me, to be honest, it was a lot of things, but one of the realizations was like, I don't want to work this hard the rest of my
There
life
you
or
go.
even that much longer. Right? like
Exactly. Yeah.
like because when you're young too, I think you have this mindset of like, oh, if I need more money, I'll just work more. At least that was my mindset, and
Yeah.
that was like kind of how I lived life. And then I had a kid, and I'm getting older, and I'm like, I want to work less. I want to spend more time with my
Right.
family. I'm tired also. Like I want to relax and like slow down and enjoy life. But like
Right.
I also don't want to take a pay cut to do that. Like I want to figure out this balance to be able to
Exactly.
to do all of that and keep my lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like you said, eventually getting to a place where I think a lot of people don't even realize they can have their money work for them, right? Like I had mentioned earlier, like my parents, I mean, they're first generation immigrants to Canada from the Caribbean. And
Hmm.
I think the only understanding of investing to them was like purchasing a house, which is an
Yeah,
investment, right? And I think
right.
most people understand that, like buy the house, buy the house. But there's so many other ways to invest your money. And to me, investing is just putting your money into some asset or vehicle where your money appreciates, where you have more down the road than what you put in, right? And I have so much fun talking about it because it can look like real estate, but it can also look like stocks. It could also look like art. You know, a lot of wealthy people maybe get more into that, but buying a piece of artwork from, you know, a notable artist and that appreciates over time. Antiques, collectibles, you know.
Yeah, where should someone start if they're like, okay, this is really resonating with me. That feels like I mean, investing or like seeing my money,
Yeah.
work for me feels like a good place for me to start. Where, how, what do we do?
How do you start? Yeah, like I said, I think it's I usually say to start with stock market investing because I think it has the lowest barrier to entry. You know,
Hmm.
like with real estate, you have to save a considerable amount of money, you know, for a down payment. And even then, you don't own your property outright. Like a mortgage
Right.
is
All
still
right.
technically, you know, good
It's
debt,
yeah.
some people like to call it. But it's not really outright yours. So with investing in the stock market, what you're doing is, I mean, the company you're investing in isn't outright yours either, but you own a share or a piece of that company. And anytime that company grows in profit, you and the other shareholders get a piece of that, right? Which is very empowering and exciting. You know, being able to, yeah, to support a company and what they stand for and their mission, you know, without having to run it yourself. It's really just
Yes.
backing them financially and then getting
Yes.
a profit in return, hopefully, over time.
I like that because I've seen you, I did a little like girl crushing on some of your content earlier
Yeah,
today, and like your Substack is great. Your what you
thank
share
you.
online is really great. I highly recommend. We'll share all your links, but I highly recommend people follow it because I feel like you put information together in such an easy, accessible, beautiful way. Like you're crushing that. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And you talk a bit about like aligned investing or aligning your money with your values. So can you dive into
Yes.
that a little bit?
Yeah, that's an exciting thing I've been talking about recently. Yeah, so ethical investing. So I think majority of people, when we think about investing, it's mainly just how much money am I going to make from this, right? Like a lot of people have that mindset of like, if I invest in stocks, I want to like get rich quick. I want to invest in the right company and like maybe overnight I might make $1 million, which is a very rare occurrence.
Yes, that's not that. Don't plan on that.
It It can, but like very, very, very small percentage in chance. Like what the GameStop situation that
Oh
happened,
yeah, yeah.
like you had to be in there prior to even knowing that was gonna happen. Like that's very much like, oh, great. Um, but sorry, I don't know why I'm like forgetting the question. You asked, oh yeah,
Oh no, no, that's okay. Aligned investing or like
aligned,
aligning
right.
values to your financial
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's important because so the first year or so that I started investing, I had put my money into something called an ETF, an exchange traded fund. And an ETF is really just like a compilation of companies in like this one portfolio. So instead of just buying outright one stock of a company, it's like maybe 150 to 100 or
Yeah.
even more companies. And so I decided to like look deeper at my ETFs and like where my money was going. Because I'm like, oh, I'm curious, like, you know, like I obviously trust the portfolio manager, whoever is managing my money to focus on profits. I know like I'm not worried about that, but like where is it actually going? And when I looked at it and I saw that my money was going to like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and I'm really big on wellness and, health and diet. And it's not to knock anyone that does occasionally, treat themselves to McDonald's here and there, but it's not really what I stand for.
Yes.
When it comes to health and wellness, like I'm very mindful, like what I put in my body, and those foods is just something I necessarily wouldn't. And so I didn't want my money going towards that. And so that's when I started to realize, like, wait, like it's just as important to align your portfolio with your values and what you stand for, and not just how much money can I make from this stock. Right. And it's very similar to when people say, you can vote with your money and what you purchase and how you consume. So I see it just like on the other side. It's like, okay, if you're investing in a company, what does this company stand for? Are
Well,
they for climate change or, fair labor rights and all those things? Because a lot of the times your money, especially if it's being invested, and it's being managed for you, is probably going towards things that you probably don't stand for.
I mean, and look at like it is one of our most powerful tools, right? To have our voices heard is our dollar. The companies you invest in, the companies you invest every time you spend money, it is some kind of investment, right? Like look at
Exactly.
what just happened with Disney and what's the talk show host that I'm like
Oh, Jimmy
all the
Kimmel. Yeah,
Jimmy
yeah,
Kimmel. Yeah, the
yeah.
only reason he came back is because people were unsubscribing to
Yeah, exactly.
you, so that hopefully was a very empowering moment for people of like, oh, we actually have power. Maybe they're not listening to our voices or, other things we're doing, but they're certainly listening to what we
Money
do
talks.
with our money and like
Yeah,
how powerful is it when we all can combine to like make better choices and see the
exactly.
shifts. And I think it really gets into also the energetics of money, which is something I very much believe in. Like, I feel like what you're talking about, if you're supporting, it's all part of like paying more attention, right? But if you're supporting the things that really align with your values and your energy, like that just creates this really beautiful
Exactly.
abundance
Beautiful.
circle, you know?
It does. And not only for yourself, but for like the world, right? And I have this three P's framework, which is pretty simple. It's profit, people, and planet. So I ensure that any stock that I'm purchasing or any investment product, to the best of my ability, is in alignment with those three. Because I know
Yes.
that if I'm investing for a better world, everyone else is going to be better off because of it, right? I also do talk about that as well in my work, the difference between individual wealth and collective wealth building and why that's also important. But yeah, definitely. It does come back tenfold. Like, yeah, be the change that you want to see in the world. And there's
Yes.
so many different ways to do it. And you can do that through who you choose to invest in. And I don't think people
Yeah.
realize that that there's a lot of power behind that.
Yeah, I love that. Something else that you mentioned that you do is you are a trauma of money facilitator.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, it was a program that I was a part of a few years ago, that I had graduated from. And so it's really just being able to speak on the trauma of money and how our traumas can um, speak to why and how we show up in the ways that we do with our money. And yeah, of course, like, trauma, at least to me, how I understand it is negative experiences that you would have had in your life. These could be small, they could be very big. It varies. It doesn't even have to be related to money. Just any significant, distressing event that sort of lives on in the body. Whenever there is, yeah, for example, I like to talk about attachment styles and how, I mentioned earlier, like maybe someone is a little afraid of looking at the numbers. Maybe they've been taught or conditioned based on some of their past traumatic experiences when they don't feel safe to just shut down,
Hmm.
right? Or to, to avoid or to anxiously overreact, to a situation. And so a lot of that, it really varies what those particular circumstances stemmed from. And that's some of the work that we do. What are the traumatic experiences that you've had over the course of your life, and how does that speak to the way that you may be showing up with
Yeah.
your money today?
Yeah, and I think, with a lot of this work, whether it's money or other things that we're talking about, like feeling whole, feeling good, loving yourself, like a lot of it does come down to safety. And if we can't feel safe, and I think that whatever direction you take it from, like money is going to come up. And like maybe it's even taking it from that direction first of like, how do I feel safe in my finances and my financial decisions? How do I work through looking at being in charge, being empowered with my finances, like what that can heal in that root chakra and that lack of safety. Like one, it's a completely necessary part, but it almost might even be a good place to start, right? Because all I feel like all the stuff's gonna bubble up through that experience.
For sure, yeah, and it definitely, yeah, as you heal in one area, it also you unconsciously also heal in some of the other areas too, right? Then you start to see your relationships, your health, the way that you treat yourself, your relationship with self also starts to shift and to change. Yeah, totally agree with.
What's the easiest or lowest or like most low-hanging fruit place that you usually see with most
Mm,
clients of like where to start to shift their financial situation?
well, one thing that I think is very underrated, but I love to encourage my clients to practice gratitude more, especially if they're coming to me with like, scarcity mindset, having always felt like they were always trying to keep up. They never had enough,
Mhm.
or they're working too hard and they're not seeing the results of that, in their bank account or that just being reflected in what they're able to do with their money. And so I always say, yeah, look at what sometimes you already have, especially if you're coming from a place of scarcity. Because I feel like just naturally our brains are wired to look for the worst case scenarios or
Mhm.
what we're lacking and what we don't have enough of. But when you're able to sort of just in small ways subtly shift into what you are grateful for, and doesn't even have to do anything with money, but once you're able to realize, hey, like I have a roof over my head, or I
Yes.
have friends that really care about me. Yeah, it's very interesting because we definitely live in a world where, like I said, the highlight reel, this comparison anxiety where we're looking at other people, living this great life or what we think is a great life, and
Mhm.
we don't know truly how they're experiencing it and how they feel. And then it's interesting because there's someone looking at you and they think that you're living this great life and maybe
Right.
you don't even see it for yourself as well too. So it's all about perspective and it depends where someone's at in their mindset. Like I know for some people if you truly are like struggling to get by and like don't have a job, don't have like you're homeless, like it's probably not going to be appropriate to say like what are you grateful for? You know, but I
I think you're onto something because it is a tool that's free to all of
it
us,
is.
right? And like it is something where you can fake it till you make it. The energy of gratitude brings in it's very abundant, very magnetic, and you can fake it till you make it. Like I've
Yeah.
done it plenty of times, right? On days where you don't feel grateful and it's like, okay, I have the choice to either certainly like dwelling in and like sitting in the unhappiness is not going to bring you more abundance or
Yes.
help you solve any of your problems. And so I think it's a really good point, really, no matter what your situation is, like to raise that vibration, like you can fake it till you make it on the
Yeah,
gratitude thing.
exactly. Yeah, it is the choice. And I mean, you can't really always control what's happening in your external environment or what's happening to you, but the one thing you have control over is how you respond. Right?
Yes.
And so exactly like you said, how are you going to choose to respond? Like life will throw things at you. And everyone has their fair share of, their ups and downs and challenges. That's just a part of life. But really like how are you going to respond to it? How are you going to um hone the skill of resilience and
Hmm.
bouncing back even better than where you were before. And that does take time, that does take patience and showing yourself compassion and grace along the way. But I think if you, what's that? It's like one of my favorite sayings by Maya Angelou. It's my favorite saying, but I always butcher it. So it's like it's like something about when you know better, you do better. And so a lot of people are just like operating on autopilot. We're operating on ignorance. A lot
Mm-hmm.
don't know how we can do better. But I feel like once you have the tools in front of you, the support systems in place, then like it's really up to you to like
Yes.
take action and
Yes.
really create that shift.
And that is the beautiful thing. We talk about social media being detrimental because you are constantly comparing yourself to others, but that is kind of one of the beautiful things about social media in this day and age where we do all have access to this information. Like I said, your Substack, your social media alone, like I'm going to dive through all of that stuff, and like there's so much, and this podcast, there's so much I'm going to learn that I can start to
Exactly.
apply immediately. And maybe it won't solve all my problems, but it gets me in a different mindset. It gets me thinking about things a different way. It starts to shift that relationship to money. And when I see things moving, then maybe I'm like, okay, I'm ready to invest and like come to you as a coach or join a group session, or really figure out how to like take this to the next level. But like our generation, we just need that little push of like change the energy, change the relationship,
Change,
change
yeah,
the stories that were handed to you that
change
just
the
like are
story.
not true anymore and are not yours.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think also just like not thinking that it's going to be overnight. Like, I don't know who sold us this overnight success
No.
story, right? And it's so interesting because you'll like, I'll hear a lot of celebrities talk and they'll be like, yeah, people just think I just blew up one day and I became this like famous like singer or artist. And it's like, no, I've been doing the work for 10 years prior that
Mm-hmm.
nobody saw, you know? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, even if you just look at nature, I feel like so much of like life lessons and like, yeah, how we're supposed to sort of navigate and operate through this life is seen beautifully in nature. Like you don't plant a seed and then like a fruit tree or a fruit or a vegetable
Yes.
grows tomorrow. Like it takes time and yeah, patience and nurturing, and that's the same sort of yeah, like process that we also have to apply to ourselves.
I love that. And I just a real world example of that. I just had a moment yesterday where we planted this fig tree, and we've gotten 3 figs off of it. And I
Oh,
and
no.
and to me, I was like having a moment of gratitude for the 3 figs that we've gotten off of it this season. And then I was like stopped and was like laughing to myself. I'm like, oh my God, 3 figs. Like obviously, there's 3 of us in the family. We each took a bite of them, enjoyed them. And I was just laughing, and like one in a moment of like, well, I'm happy that I'm grateful for that, right? But like also thinking about the future of this fig tree, I was like, there's going to be a day in a couple years where we have more figs than we know what to do with.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
here I am, like happy about the 3 figs we got off of it this
Right
season.
now. Yeah, I'm gonna have to be thinking like, okay, can I turn this into a fig jam? Like, who can I
Exactly.
donate this and give this away to? Like, there's many different ways to turn a fig into something. Yeah, just to get rid of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's all a
Yeah.
process. And like, how do we, with all of this evolution and expansion, how do we enjoy the journey, right? What is something that like you repeatedly see that people think that they want, but they actually want? Like, but what is it that they actually want?
Um, yeah, I think people just really want to be rich in the sense they just want to have a lot of money, but I really feel like it's not the money, it's this the freedom, right? It's what the
Yeah.
money can buy
Yes.
you. So whether that's freedom, more options, comfort, security of just knowing like I have this much there. Like if anything happens to me, I'm set. My kids are set. My
Yes.
great grandkids are, and it does vary for different people, but yeah, it's not the money itself, it's what the money can it's what the money rewards you with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, I love that too. A big key was freedom. Freedom's a big word for my soul. And it was like, yeah, money, I don't need the thing. Like I've evolved to a place in my life where I don't necessarily need material things, but I want freedom. I want freedom of time. I want freedom to explore like all the amazing things on this planet and take my kid and teach her things. Like it comes down to freedom. It's like not the yacht. Like I don't give a shit about the yacht or the nice car or but like
Right.
freedom, like
Freedom. Yeah.
freedom is worth the work.
Right. And so actually to play devil's advocate there, it's interesting because I feel like you can still find freedom even outside of this monetary system. And that's something I've also been trying to teach my clients or people who maybe are we're kind of, late stage capitalism. I'm not trying to fearmonger. I don't know where things are going
Yeah.
to go with
Yeah.
AI. But for example, what if the whole thing were sort of to like collapse? Like, what's the point of me investing and, continuing to operate and like perpetuate the system that's not working for a
Mm,
majority of people?
mm,
One situation or experience that I had really shifted my mindset around not even being wealthy in terms of, currency and money, but learning just how to be resourceful. And I was in New Zealand maybe like 2, 3 years ago, and I was just like walking down the streets of Auckland, and some girl was like handing out a flyer to this yoga event. And I was like, sure, like I had no like concrete plans that day. And so I decided to go. And she did mention as well that there would be a monk coming to speak. And I've like never, that really excited me because I've never
cool.
really like sat down in front of like a highly revered spiritual teacher.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, this is gonna be so cool. I was cool, but like I didn't get the answer from him that I wanted, and I actually left kind of like like
That
this
sounds
monk is
right.
really
That
pissing me off.
sounds like what I would imagine that experience would be like,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
but one thing that he did mention that I found so interesting was like he's not allowed to accept money, like physical cash. He's not allowed to earn an income, but he's resourced, like he's well fed, he finds shelter somehow. And I know he travels around the world to do these speaking events, and he pretty much mentioned that he just leans on his community and his networks, right? And this kind of gets into like the energetics of money and the idea that everything in this world, in this life, is a transaction, and you don't always have to exchange money for something else in return, for an experience or for an item, or time, right? Like
Yeah.
investing talks about not always having to exchange time for money. And so for him it's like, maybe someone's covering his plane fares, and he probably stays with the host who's hosting these events, with their family, and I'm pretty sure maybe they have neighbors and people that are bringing food for him. So like he never goes hungry, always has a place to stay. And it's crazy to me because he's not operating within like this capitalistic framework,
I love
but
that.
he's
Yeah.
still getting by and he's thriving.
And how
So
good does that feel? And imagine the ripple effect too of the people supporting him. Like to be able to host someone in your house and be so gracious and like have your neighbors over and sit down and have meals and like what a beautiful and like much more meaningful experience. I
yeah.
love that.
And
You also shared something on your social media today that I like sent to my husband and a couple friends, and I was like, this is it. And it was a post about, and this is kind of how I've started to think about wealth. And it's not until today that I'm actually putting that label on it, but it was a post about like creating your own ecosystem in like your own backyard of like being able to live sustainably off your own land and like having your own resources. And like that feels like a huge calling for me, and I think a lot of us feel called to that, whether it's because we don't feel safe within the system, or
right.
maybe we've romanticized this idea of like farming and feeding ourselves. But that to me, I was like, that feels like it. That feels really good. That feels safe. That feels loving. That feels like such a cool opportunity to teach our family. Like that feels like wealth.
Are you talking about the story on my Instagram of like
Yes.
how to live
Yes.
off like a quarter acre? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I'm also really getting into things like that. Yeah, and like that's the other thing. Sometimes, like I said, wealth might look like freedom or options, but wealth could also look like having land. And I think why land is so important is because you can create this self-sustaining sort of
Yeah.
ecosystem
Yeah.
where even with a small acreage, you can farm. I mean, it also depends where you live. So, I'm so envious of those who maybe live a bit maybe south of like the United States,
Yeah.
or even of the border of Canada, where like, or someone who lives in the Caribbean, or like just in a warmer climate where you can farm year round, and really just have a few plants and vegetables in your backyard so that you don't have to rely on going to a grocery store
Mhm.
and always having to exchange money for, these
Yes.
basic foods, if you can find a way to cultivate that for yourself, and then having neighbors that you can exchange with. Like, it's so
Yes.
interesting. I was having a conversation with someone about, so I was just in Tobago. My dad's from Trinidad and Tobago, but the smaller islands, Tobago. And I was like, there's no homelessness out here in the Caribbean.
Mm,
And like if there is, it's mainly people that are just like strung out on drugs. Like they're just like in the middle of the road, just like talking crazy to themselves, you know.
right.
But even then, they're not begging for money. It's very rare to see someone beg for money. Whereas, I could be walking downtown Toronto and like every other street corner, I'm seeing that.
Right.
And I
Right.
think why it works so well in the Caribbean is that, I mean, any culture outside of, Western society, I think they lean more towards being interdependent and not
Yes.
this focus on being independent. And even in
Yes.
Western society and cultures, like I think we're very hyper independent. It's all about doing things for yourselves, being self-made and not having to rely on other people. And if you can do that, then like, you're rewarded even more so. But in the Caribbean, it's like everyone leans on everyone else. There are public fruit trees. I don't know if they meant to
Yeah.
do that, but like
Yeah.
I'll go to the grocery store and there's literally like a mango tree. Mango trees hanging like around the grocery
Yes.
store.
I
And
love
I feel like
that.
that's why no one's really like you could be homeless, but you could still be thriving because you can literally just go and pick a mango or whatever fruits available to you for the
Yes.
day. Like you
Yes.
can't ever really go hungry,
Yeah.
and like in Western culture and societies, like we don't have that. Like you have to go to a grocery store to get your food, or you have to know someone who maybe has enough wealth to have land to, be so generous to even just gift you whatever they have for that season. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us are feeling this, that the system feels very broken, right? I mean, we're pretty far down the path. So it's like, what do we do about it? But I think like you're just reminding me of small acts of kindness that I've received or done lately. Like my neighbor yesterday, I haven't been feeling well for a few weeks, and our neighbor brought us dinner last night, like a homemade big casserole dish of macaroni and cheese that she made. And I literally felt like I won the lottery. Like I was like, are you kidding me? This is so, I don't feel well. I don't have to make dinner now. You went through this trouble and made something beautiful for us and like thought about us even. Like it was such a gift. And I think like maybe we can't fully break down the system and maybe it'll break down itself, like, you know?
right.
But like those starting to incorporate things like that, those small acts. I had a friend recently while I was sick also drop off a homemade loaf of sourdough, like out of the blue, didn't say anything to me. It was just like, hey, check your front porch. And like, if we could all start to just do little acts like that, like how inspiring, how different that made my day, how helpful it was, like how much joy it brought me, how much joy it brought them gifting something like that is, the baby steps to start to create our own ecosystem, change the world.
Ecosystem of being resourceful. And even like some people in that moment might be like, oh, well, like I have to go bake something now for them to do something in return. But it's looking at other creative ways to give back, to keep that cycle going, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe it's like maybe they need someone to watch, their kids
Yes,
on a weekend so they can
exactly.
have a date night and you
Yeah.
can offer that, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't always have to look exactly like what they gave you, you have to give in return in the exact same way, but being mindful
Yeah.
of other
Yeah, the
ways to give back.
mindfulness and the awareness, like maybe like slowing down to have an awareness of like, oh, I'm noticing this. This is something I could do to help them. And then eventually that just being like the natural state of all of us, right? Like
Exactly.
how do we contribute and help those in our neighborhood? Like I
That would
am
be a
I'm
dream. Yeah.
hopeful for that, and I think I'm like throwing that challenge out to anyone listening,
Right.
like how can you start to support that within your own, whether it's like physically your neighbors or whatever community that you're part of, your friends, your family, because we're in a time where we need that. We need to be, if
We
nothing
do.
else, like we need to be reminded that our neighbors are our friends and we are supported and that
For sure.
we're all in this
We're
together.
all in this together. Yeah, that's the illusion that we have to break down, that we're not all in this together. And that kind of gets me to talking about like collective wealth building and why I feel
Hmm.
like it's so important. Because so much of like what I see finance gurus or, money, like spiritual money coaches talk about is like how to build individual wealth. And that's mainly like what I did. I'm not judging because I focused so much on that in the beginning of my coaching journey too. Like how can you get rich? Like I want to show
Right.
you how. But then I realized like there's this gap between like yes, building wealth for yourself, but how does that pour back into other people? And how can we ensure that other people are also taken care of? And why I think that's so important is because, I mean, we're seeing it clear as day today. Like the political divisiveness, the increase in crime and violence. When you look at cities, the, the pockets of cities or areas where there's like significant poverty is where most of the crime happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like this direct correlation. I don't know if I can say causation, but we see it like in areas where
Mm-hmm.
there's poverty, more crime, harm, violence. And so, you don't have to be living in those pockets, but eventually those pockets will start to seep into the areas in which you live in and like eventually affect you. So it's like, how can we ensure that other people are well taken care of? And right now, I think we are really in a class war. I mean, we
Yeah.
think it's a race war or a gender war or you know, um,
Well, that's how you get the same class fighting against one another, right? Is by
one another.
putting
Yeah,
those other tags on it, right? But it's like, hey, we're
exactly.
all kind of the same here. Like,
We're all in this together. But I think it's because there's this class war. A lot of people are struggling, and the wealth gap is continuing to increase. It's getting worse. The
hmm
rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and like I just feel like we're at this state where people just don't know what to do about it. And
yeah.
um, we're in a very scary but also beautiful place because with AI, we can rewrite possibly the system and
hmm
and and maybe do things better and in a way where most people's basic needs are taken care of. But it takes a lot of us to have that awareness and to realize that we have the power to put that into place and to
Well, and
and to dictate to those who do have power
yeah,
how we want it to go.
yes, something like that. It sounds like we need to really make our voices heard and say this is what we want,
For
and then
sure.
elect people in power that are willing to do those
Do it.
things, right?
That too. Yeah.
But that is a really beautiful perspective on it. And I appreciate that because that feels very hopeful. Where I think a lot of the conversation right now, a lot of the tone, even the conversations around AI is like, we're fucked. you
Hmm.
know, us common people are screwed. But I really like that perspective. No, like we have the power. There's more of us than there are the elite, right? Like, and we have the
Exactly.
power to use this tool for our own uprising and our own benefit. And all of this common theme that keeps coming up as we're talking today is like the awareness. We need to have the awareness. Like that's where it starts. And then we commit to like understanding what the potential solutions are, what our blockages are, like how we can work through it, how we can collaborate and come together. Um, yeah, this has gone to a
Yeah.
really beautiful place. Thank you. I feel
Yeah.
really hopeful, actually. I'm not gonna have to
Right.
like buy land and seclude myself in a bubble to
No,
like stay safe. Like we can change all of this together.
it's not too late. I never feel like it's ever too late. There's ways to, aside from just toppling the system altogether, how can we, yeah, make the system work in the ways in which it was supposed to? I think a lot of people, really demonize capitalism, and of course it has a very like exploitative sort of roots and beginnings. But I think like the foundation and the theory around capitalism was founded on, people being able to own property to pursue whatever it is that they want in life. They have the freedom and the liberties to. Because a lot of systems before that were, either it was like a monarchy and you had kings and queens sort of
Right,
deciding,
right.
your fate, or feudalism, or, dictatorships and anarchies. So this, I think, was the first time, the past few hundred years, where people were really able to say, yeah, I'm going to go out there and exchange time for money or build that business and buy the home that and
hmm
or buy the car that I want. And I think that's beautiful, and that's why a lot of maybe right wing, maybe conservatives, really do love aspects of capitalism and really favor capitalism. But I think where it's just been corrupted is that capitalism was also supposed to be a system where wealth is redistributed. And
Yes.
that's
Yes.
that's where
Yes.
things got broken down, and we realized, oh, the people who are supposed to redistribute aren't. And so if we can
It,
get them to do that,
yes.
or we can
Yes.
have
It's
more
not, yeah.
people. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's not necessarily the system or the idea that's broken. It's the way it's being executed.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
which is kind of beautiful and again hopeful because that can change. We can change. We've all pivoted, in life and business. Like we can pivot, and it feels like we now have more tools and more wisdom than ever as the common person to figure out what that pivot looks like within the system that is not that, or this idea, this concept that works. It just like got a little bit tangled
Tangled
and
up.
muddy
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah. And
You
I
know,
do want to add that too, like wealth isn't the only answer, because I've heard of people being like, oh, well, we all need to be wealthy, or you know, so some people have that, this idea that rich people are evil. And so it's like, well, if we get people who aren't evil, like the good rich people,
right.
to do that work for us, and that's part of the answer. But I always feel like I mean, realistically, there's always going to be someone that has a little bit more than someone else, right? And
Mhm.
so I don't think the answer is everyone finding ways to make six figures. I don't even know if that's really possible. But I think it's learning how to how to help other people build collective wealth, even outside of just being wealthy yourself. Like even me, just bringing awareness to people, financial
Yes.
literacy,
Yes.
other ways of being resourced even outside of capitalist systems. Like we need more of that, having more
Yeah.
conversations, being mindful of where you spend your money. There's so
Mhm.
many other ways to combat the corruption in the system without just feeling like, well, I just have to become the next billionaire to solve,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the world's crises, because one person is not going to have all the answers anyways. That's also why we're in this situation too, right? It's like the elites feeling like, well, I have all this money, so I have the power, I
Mhm.
have the right to
And
dictate how things should go. And so it's just going to become this like self-fulfilling prophecy. So you don't have to be super wealthy in order to, make a difference in this world too. I
yes.
don't want people to, yeah, get confused on that.
No, I love that message and I love the overall vibe that you're sharing of like how do we what actually makes us feel wealthy, right? And what would actually make us feel wealthy, and can we create that kind of environment not just for ourselves but for our community? Because like the rising tide lifts all ships, and like
Exactly.
it's way more fun to participate in a community than it is to like be by yourself no matter what
Be by
the
yourself.
riches are.
Yeah. We weren't meant
Yeah.
to, yeah, be islands and live on our own. Yeah, that would make no sense. So,
Well,
yeah.
you've left me feeling very, very hopeful, very
Yay.
excited, very excited to just dive into more for me personally of like, yeah, what does wealth actually look like fully? What's the full picture of wealth? And how do I start to support people in my community to feel safe, to feel abundant, to feel
Right.
supported? Like, that feels like a really exciting and important next step.
It is. I love that. I love that. You've had that revelation today.
Yes. All thanks to you. Okay, last question. You have 20 seconds with someone. This is the only time you're going to interact with them, and you need to say something that's going to change their life. What do you tell them?
Hmm. I would say follow what lights you up. Might have nothing to do with money, but just whenever you feel lost, confused, just tap into the feelings, whatever feels good.
Yeah.
Like that will always be your answer. Always check in with your body and check in what feels
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I love that. Morgan, this has been so incredible. I cannot wait for people to hear this and to check out all the wisdom that you're sharing online. Can you tell us how can people find you? How can they work for you with you? What do you have going on?
You can work for me if you want to as well. That's
I mean, hey, sign me up.
I'll pay you really good, I promise. Yeah, you can find me on well, my website, morganblackman.com. That's probably the best place to start. You can get a little bit, more of a background on who I am and my work. any free resources to tap into. And then in terms of showing up, I have my YouTube at Morgan Blackman and my Substack, in which Brooke had already mentioned, at the Wealth Letters. And yeah, I am excited. Towards the end of this year, I will be opening up the doors to my Wealth Ball course and group
Okay.
coaching program. It's the first time I'm actually doing it in a group coaching setting. I've had a lot of women like reach out to me and kind of want that. So not
Yeah.
necessarily the one-on-one and not necessarily a self-paced course, but yeah, something where there's a blend of accountability and like community, right? Coming back to
Yes.
that community
Love that.
piece. So yeah, I'll be opening up in November, so I'll share with you, Brooke, the link for them to join that as well.
Awesome. And my listeners know that I love a group course because I think there's so many expansive moments that you can have when you're in community in collaboration with others. So that will definitely be something to check out. That sounds amazing. Morgan, you have been a wealth of knowledge. You are such a light, and thank you for this like really refreshing but accessible approach to wealth and abundance.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening. This feels like a really great episode to share, to start the conversations. I think that's a big part of this too, right? Is like, can we feel comfortable having conversations with our friends, with our family, with our communities about money, finances, abundance, what it all means to us, with our partner at the very minimum, right? Send this episode to your partner so you guys can start building your dream life and supporting your dream community. Um, and of course, as I've already said, definitely follow Morgan on her social handles, her Substack. There's a ton of great info there, that goes deeper and far beyond what we discussed today. All right, thank you guys. Wishing everyone so much abundance, and I cannot wait to hear. Please DM me if you gift or trade or do something in your community that makes your community members feel supported. Very, very much want to encourage that, and I'll be on the lookout to do the same in my world. All right, thanks everyone. Thank you, Morgan.
Bye. Thanks.